welcome to another edition of Geeks Who Like Sports. It's episode 129. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, I am Ray Carsillo in beautiful Los Angeles, California. I'm back in the country, and joined as always my best friend in entire world over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how are you doing today?
Ray, I'm glad you're back in the country. You seem to have a little pep in your step, as they say, a little bit of zing in your bling, a little bit of energy from going to Europe. And I'm glad that you're back with us stateside. Exactly what you needed. Slingshot across the Atlantic Ocean to another country to eat good food for a week, then slingshot back to madness in Los Angeles, California, where you've been jet lagged for 24 hours. But now you're back with us here on Geeks Who Like Sports. That's the smoothest intros I've ever done. Back to you, Ray.
Yeah, I mean, I thank you, Lee, and it was a good trip. It was a very good trip. You know, again, for those of you who remember, we recorded episode 128 a little earlier than normal because I had to go to Spain for work. It's a fantastic trip.
They've had to wait 8 days, Ray. They've had to wait 8 days for you.
Yeah, that's true. It's been 8 days.
In some planets, in some galaxies, that's an eternity.
Well, there you go. Well, we're happy that you lasted an eternity and that you're back with us. If for those of you out there listening across the ether, but yeah, it was a great trip. I mean, the minor inconveniences of having to find a COVID test to get back into the United States and having to wear a mask 12 hours each direction was well worth it. For
how long was your flight time? 12 hours.
So 12 hours plus a 3-hour layover each way.
So Ray flew 15 hours to play video games. I love it. I really mean that. I'm not making fun of you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Ray flew 15 hours both directions to play a video game. That's his life. And you're tuned in with him on his channel. Yeah. Stick around because we're talking a lot of topics that I requested that sports be first tonight so we could completely rip the Major League Baseball version of whatever they're calling a championship apart.
Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. It is a big show, like Lee said. We've got a lot of trailers. We've got some crazy stuff happening in the movie industry. We've got a lot of football to talk about.
We do.
And of course, but kicking things off here, the big things with the sports is, it's the World Series. The World Series is underway. As we are recording this, episode 129, we are in game one. The Braves are currently up 3-0 as we are talking. They have gotten at least very early to the Astros pitcher. Charlie Morton had a rough first inning, but he got out of it without giving up any runs. Knowing Charlie Morton, he will settle down. And of course, 99.9% of the country is rooting for those Atlanta Braves here. So we are hoping that the Braves do end up winning. And if folks here in chat talking about the one good thing that if the Astros did win would be Dusty Baker. But, and I do agree that would be a small silver lining, but at the end of the day, screw Houston and screw baseball because they still didn't properly punish the Astros from 2017. Lee and I disagree on what the punishment should have been, but we do agree it should have been a far larger punishment than it was. And if you're a longtime listener, you know how we feel on this. I feel that the championship should not have been vacated. Lee feels it should have been.
No, but I feel that's an option that should have been explored, to be fair.
That's fair.
Okay.
But I feel that the players that we knew who were involved should have been banned for life. Instead of just a couple of the coaches who, of course, were fired for a year. AJ Hinch now, of course, is back in Detroit. Cora is back in Boston. Beltran and McCann, well, tough luck to them, but everybody else got off scot-free. And of course, this only proves that the Astros were probably didn't need to cheat to win. They were a good team. They are a good team to have gotten this far. Again, they're a good team to have gotten as far as 2019 before losing to the Nats in 7 games. But the fact of the matter is that because no decent punishment was levied against that organization or those players, that this stigma will follow most of these guys for the rest of their careers. Lee, your thoughts?
Let's rewind back, Ray, to the start of the season. All right, maybe when even pitchers and catchers were reporting. And I believe that I said, I will be boycotting the MLB this year because they continually break my heart and I'm tired of it. And this is not a blowhard thing. Ray will back me up. I have not watched 1 inning of baseball this year. To reiterate, I don't hate baseball. We've had this conversation before. I am not against baseball. I don't hate baseball. I just hate the MLB. And I'll tell you this. Boy, did I make the right decision. I want to thank Major League Baseball for being so crappy and Manfred for being such a horrendous leader that I made the right decision. Because I honestly, Ray, cannot imagine a worse situation for me as a kind of Phillies fan to be in, of the team that cheated being there versus the team that I probably say can't stand the second most. All right. With that said, if I had to pick Atlanta, you want Atlanta to win just to keep the sanctity of the sport alive here. But my goodness, baseball, what have you done? And there is so much that goes into this. One, the thing that kills me too, you want to talk about breaking your heart? You're right, Ray. The Astros probably didn't need to cheat. They're probably good enough, but now we'll never know. They got off scot-free last year because of the pandemic. They didn't have to deal with the fans booing them, right? Probably gave them an identity, by the way. You probably gave them the identity that they're using to succeed this year. As a team building coach, I kind of get that. It's horrible. It's horrible. And it's up to the players union and the MLB are too close together. This went off without being punished. I've always said this. The job of the commissioner in any professional sport is to maintain the sanctity of the game. Is to maintain that. And this is so far beyond that. Not to mention there's layers to this, right? There's the basic layer of that the Astros cheated a few years ago. Now they're back with no punishment. Some of the same players on the team. That's one
Altuve,
layer.
Bregman, Correa,
One layer of BS right there, right? Number two, here's something that no one's talking about that I guarantee you is going to get politicized in the next 24 hours, right? Where was the All-Star game supposed to be this year?
Supposed to be in Atlanta, and they got moved to Colorado.
Right. Now, with that said, there's a lot to go in there too, a lot to go into with that, which I don't want to. Okay. The MLB took a stand, or I'll say grandstanded a stand about something going on in Georgia, a very serious issue that needed to be discussed, which I'm not going to discuss here. But now you set this precedent of, okay, well, we're not going to stand for that. Now they're in the World Series, and there's literally nothing you can do about it. Right. So you were willing to take that business away from all the small business owners, which had really nothing to do with baseball, by the way. Absolutely nothing to do with baseball. They had no reason to jump into that. Okay. You take all that business away from the small business owners of that area and the people that they count on that stuff in the economy, right? For maybe a good reason, maybe not. That's up for you to decide at home. Again, we're not discussing that. Now the World Series is there in Atlanta. Not to mention the other team is in Houston. So Major League Baseball that stuck its nose into politics for really no good reason is now stuck on the opposite side of their own political mess, which is another reason why politics and sports typically should not be mixed together. There are times, I'm not saying it should never happen. I'm not one of those people who just shut your mouth and play the sport. My attitude's always been, you don't have to shut your mouth, but you probably should. That's always been my attitude, okay? This is a nightmare scenario, in my opinion. I'm going to say this again. I've said this about 10 times this season, right? I don't understand baseball fans why you keep going back outside the love of the game, which I understand. I don't get it. No one has convinced me. No one has tried to tell me why baseball is still wonderful. Not the game, Major League Baseball. Okay? And I don't understand it. And here's the other thing too. I'm not saying you, Ray, so much, but if people go overboard on complaining about this World Series and they've been watching all year, you deserve this, in my opinion. I'm not turning on baseball fans, but you deserve this. You don't go to a casino, lose all your money, and then blame the casino. You know what you were getting into when you walked in the casino. They're going to take everything you have. Somebody else is going to win. By the way, it's the guy who's cheating, the Astros, and they're going to walk out richer than you, and no one cares, right? There is no other sport that has fallen as much as this sport. It's incredible. They're losing fans. They're losing youth baseball players. I cannot watch a game in which people cheat and get away with it. Horrible, horrible season. And this is the cherry on top of it, Ray. It is the cherry on top of the MLB season. The only highlight that the MLB has over the last 2 seasons is Ray Carcillo doing play-by-play on MLB The Show, which is far more entertaining than any live game that I've seen.
Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, even I admit this is probably the least amount of baseball I've watched
that says something
in years this year. Yeah. So, I mean, like I still watch, but again, I've watched almost none of the playoffs. I told the guys, and they know this in chat, and it's truth. I've watched almost none of the playoffs. Obviously I'll see what the box score is after the game, just out of, morbid curiosity. But, I have not. I've watched less baseball this year than any other year than I can remember since I was a little kid. The game is in trouble as a whole, and
Big trouble. Big trouble.
yeah, I mean, and to go back to your point, I think that the whole thing with moving the All-Star game out of Atlanta was, yeah, I mean, it was. I am always okay with athletes and sports using their platform for the betterment of everything, and I think that again, it's whether you agree with it or not, it was within baseball's prerogative. But like you said, I think they only thought of one side of the coin and not the other when they made the decision.
Always an issue.
Which is right. Well, you didn't weigh both sides of the argument, which there is almost always two sides to any argument here. And again,
Ray,
not getting into the particular issue.
Just really quick, like, and this is a larger scale thing. The question I always ask myself is an action conducive to bringing people together, not further apart? All right. And the thing is, it's funny because a lot of comedians right now, a lot of both in news comedy and comedy are saying this is getting out of hand. The level of hatred that we have for each other, which I'm not part of, in my opinion, because I'm kind of starkly in the middle, is getting out of hand. People 30 years ago didn't hate each other. They just disagreed. So these actions, these grandstanding actions, whether or not the morality behind it is you're for or against it. Okay. There's definitely a discussion there. Is it conducive to bringing us back together? If someone says to you, I believe this, you just roll your eyes and go, you're wrong. That's totally not the point. Right. So I just think, look, the MLB, by the way, is not the only league guilty of that, to be fair.
Right.
Okay. But what are we doing? Baseball is a wonderful sport. Ray, if you came here and said, hey, listen, let's go to the Phillies game and have some beers, I would do it just to spend time with you. But it has nothing to do with baseball. And just so the people in chat know, this has nothing to do with me being from Philadelphia or being a Phillies fan. Okay. And again, Ray will back me up. This has nothing to do with that. All right. I'm not pissed off because the Phillies didn't make the playoffs. I kind of predicted that was going to happen. All right. my point is this, is that the sport is being mutilated by the MLB. And until the fan base stands up and says we've had enough, you're letting a corporation basically run your sport for you. Okay. This is the worst of capitalistic sports ventures right now. And I am a capitalist saying that. They're going to ruin your game. They're going to ruin it. And it won't exist in 100 years at the rate it's going. And that's not crazy what I'm saying.
No, it's not. That's actually what is predicted, is that baseball will die probably before we will at this rate.
At this rate, man, I wouldn't be surprised.
So it is something that they need to consider. And again, it starts, we always talk about this with a lot of different things. It starts with leadership. And obviously, as bad as Bud Selig was, I would love to have him back after what we've seen from Rob Manfred the last 6 or 7 years.
He is the worst commissioner I have ever seen.
Yeah,
ever.
He's absolutely horrendous.
And Ray will tell you this, I usually defend commissioners. I usually defend them because it's not an easy job. This is the worst leadership I've seen in my lifetime. There have been worse leaders in baseball, to be fair. All right. Especially when you look at labor law and prior to players having a say in it. But I'm going to say it again. The problem here, you want to root it down, the MLBPA and the MLB are far too close together. They are working in each other's interest to the point that the game cannot evolve because they don't care about the game. They care about banking as much as possible. That is a major conflict of interest to a business surviving. All right. The product has to be there. You have to care about the product and the people that you're serving the product to, and they don't care. So I can't watch it.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing too, is, you mentioned that, look, the collective bargaining agreement is up after the World Series, right? Like there's already talks that there's going to be another strike. There's going to be another work stoppage. There's going to be a shortened season if there's a season next year. I'm going to say this right now. If baseball doesn't have a season next year because of a work stoppage, after they were able to get even a truncated season in because of COVID, the sport, like, it might be dead by the end of the decade.
This is all I'm going to say about that. The NHL went through a full season off in 2005, right? And it came back way, way better than it was, right? And I think we see that now, the road from 2006 to 2021, it's back on ESPN. The ratings are the highest they've ever been. The league is, outside COVID, making us more money than it's ever made. So good things can come from a labor stoppage if
for sure
things are done right. And I'll be honest with you, that might be what needs to happen right now to get things back on track. But I have no faith in those two governing bodies. There's nothing that shows me they care about the game.
Well,
Nothing.
and that's the thing is that you go back to the last work stoppage of 94, the most infamous one, and you look at what's happened to the game since 1994, the steroid scandal, right? The cheating with the Astros, the lack of, again, lack of a salary cap. They implemented a luxury tax that the best teams don't listen to.
Right.
There's a lack of parity in the league.
How about
right?
not protecting their players from COVID? Just horrible.
Yeah, like the baseball is in trouble, right? Like, I mean, look, the league has gotten progressively worse in the past 26 years, 27 years.
You put the NFL next to the MLB, the MLB is a joke. You put any of these leagues up against the MLB, it's a joke at this point. Even the NBA is doing a better job with their sport.
I think the NBA is doing a very good job, actually, on a lot of fronts.
I don't get it. Again, I know a lot of you love the game and love the sport, and you just want to follow your team. I personally, I'm not trying to judge anyone who does it. I can't do it. I can't bring myself to watch it.
Yeah.
Right. It's just, I have better uses of my time. I'd rather watch, international softball. I'm not kidding. College baseball. I'd rather watch any of those. Japanese baseball.
I watch wiffle ball, actually.
Seriously, listen, I love to play baseball. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I cannot give the MLB any support right now. I really can't. And like I said, I'm a big believer in you vote with your dollars. And again, look, I would love, I really mean this, Ray. I would love to be the kind of that, because I'm like, Ray, you know this guy. I'm kind of like this most of the time. That kind of, I'm not here for any of that. I just want to come to the game and enjoy the game, like even keel type mentality. This sport, I've said it to you, Ray. The sport's broken my heart too many times. Too many times since my youth. Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, the Astros. I mean, it's more than just that, right? I'm not thinking of everything right now. I'm done. And this is the worst possible outcome. And I think we joked about it in the beginning of the year. Like, what would be the Braves versus the Astros? I think I said something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe I might have said the Mets. But it just can't stand it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going to continue to not watch it. And again, I think I made the right decision this year. I just think I do. Horrible. Horrible work, MLB.
Yeah, the league is in trouble. The league has an image issue. Like, it has a legit image problem, and the people right now at the front office don't care. Hopefully, one person who's now going to be joining the ownership group can step in and maybe start to turn the tide. But he's got to talk about an uphill battle. And Taylor mentioned in the chat, wiffle ball is fire. Yes, it is. Ken Griffey Jr. has bought an ownership stake in the Seattle Mariners. Of course, the team that he's probably best associated with.
The true winner of the home run contest that year now, it turns out.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. The only one who had legitimate home run totals during that era, one of the few, I should say. He bought a part of the Mariners. And I think this is a great thing. First off, the Mariners are on the upswing. They showed that this year. They have a lot of good young talent. They're finally starting to turn things around. They were very close to a playoff berth. If it wasn't for a few bonehead moves, and maybe with his injection of money into that organization, they'll go get a couple of the big free agents out there. Maybe a Marcus, we were talking before the pre-show, maybe a Marcus Semien. I know a lot of the Red Sox fans in chats are like, oh, we hope Semien can come play second base for us. I don't think Semien's going to go to Boston. I think he's going to get a bigger offer somewhere else, honestly. I think Seattle might actually be somebody who's in on it.
Seattle's a city on the up and up right now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like they're obviously just got a hockey team. The odds are they're gonna have a basketball team in the next 2 to 5 years. It's a city you want to play in right now.
When the NBA finally expands again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, Ken Griffey coming back to the town that obviously is near and dear to his heart. Him and his dad played there together. It was, insane. They went back-to-back home runs. Obviously, all the records, Ken Griffey Sr.
My favorite play is not the back-to-back home runs. That's the most amazing play. It's when Ken Griffey Jr. did that walking catch in the outfield right in front of his father. Yes. Just walked up. That was my favorite. I'm taking this one, Pop. That was my favorite one.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. So it's great. I think that is a rare good story to come out of baseball.
Right.
Is that one of the best people, one of the best ambassadors for the game, one of the best ambassadors for the game really in our generation is now coming back into the game as an owner. Again, I think it's like Jeter down in Miami. A lot of folks criticized him, but I really think that organization as well is going to be on the up and up in the next few years because they did what the Chicago Cubs did 6 years ago. They hoarded all of this young talent and then they all came of age at the same time, and suddenly the Cubs end a 108-year curse. So
Look,
I think it's good.
Shaking up an organization is very hard, and again, fans understandably are very impatient, or fans of a person. They go, Jeter's there, he's going to turn it around, and he will, but it takes time. It takes a lot of time. One of my favorite stories, and Ray, as I study sports owners and GMs. I mean, I really love that side of the game. I love the business side of sports. Mark Cuban is a great example. When he bought the Mavs, I mean, they were horrible. And you know what he did his first season, Ray? He just sat in a different seat every game and just observed the game from everywhere. He didn't sit in that box. He didn't sit in the owner's box. He sat in the nosebleeds, right court side. He sat everywhere. He experienced the game for a year, took notes every game before he even started saying, okay, next year we're going to do this. And it took them a long time to win their NBA championship. So, look, turning a franchise around, number one, just from a crappy franchise to even a competitive franchise is insanely hard. Making a champion, I've said this before on the show, people underestimate how hard it is to win in professional sport, in any sport really, but only one team wins. The odds are never in your favor, ever. Even if you're the New York Yankees with a rich tradition of winning, the odds are not in your favor to win the World Series every year. You have slightly better odds, but not by much. I mean, maybe 3-4%. You know what I mean? Yeah. So extra on top. So I'm going to say it again. It's just, it's amazing to me that people don't dive into that more, because it's actually fascinating to see a team really become homegrown. And, Ray, I've said, look, you've been a Yankees fan, and you've been a Rangers fan. You've been a fan of some of the biggest teams of all time. And, I have to imagine this is going to be a tough question for you, but I'm going to ask it, right? Those World Series where you guys had that homegrown talent must have felt a little different than the ones you just kind of paid and brought super.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not going to say those didn't feel well. All right. Like, cause there is an art to that too, like bringing an all-star team together. But the ones where, you had these guys in the farm system, they came up in like 96, 97, that era.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You look at our dynasty. Our last dynasty was all homegrown talent.
Right.
Our last world championship, 09, was we got a bunch of free agents. Right? We got CC Sabathia, Mark Teixeira. We bought everybody. Right. And again, and it only worked for 1 year. Right. Whereas, again, the homegrown talent where we had Jeter, Posada, Bernie Williams, Andy Pettit, right? You had all of those guys. Sure, you had a couple free agent acquisitions, but the Yankees didn't make the splash, right? You look at who the Yankees acquired in that dynasty. Scott Brosius, who was on the scrap heap, who hit 203 the year before in Oakland, comes to New York, hits almost 300, drives in 98 runs. That's the quote unquote the magic of the pinstripes, right? Like you make a move where like this guy's in the scrap heap, but there's something there. A character guy, right? Tino Martinez, Paul O'Neill when he was brought over in the early 90s, right? This wasn't the big block. Yes, we did in 99 and 2000 make that ridiculous trade for Roger Clemens. Like and whatnot, but like that was like the flashiest move. Most everything else the Yankees made were either little tweaks or homegrown talent that came up and prospered and delivered what we thought they were going to.
And that's my point, right? Those feel a little bit different. It always feels good to win, but look at some of these homegrown talents, Ken Griffey Jr., Derek Jeter. You see these guys going to teams and trying to change things. Maybe that is the future. Maybe that is the bright light at the end of the tunnel. But I'm not going to watch until I see some changes from the top. And honestly, I might not watch till Manfred's out of there. He is, I said it already, just the worst.
He's horrendous. He's absolutely horrendous.
Everything he does is wrong.
Yeah.
And I got fans, people listening, I typically defend commissioners. Yes. All right. So it's just bad. Anyway, sorry, Ray. I will say this. I wish Ken Griffey Jr. nothing, but I don't like to wish luck in sports because I don't believe in luck, but I will wish him a prosperous time at the Mariners.
Yes. Yeah. It would be interesting to see that franchise turn things around again. It's been 20 years since the Mariners last made the playoffs.
Yeah, not a competitive team.
No, they were competitive this year, but that's the first time in a long time
I wouldn't know.
That for Seattle. Well, that's also true.
I wouldn't know. Yeah.
Speaking of competitive teams, the NFL, again, most parity in sports is in the NFL. And we had some really interesting games this week.
We had an interesting catch this week, Ray, that we have to talk about.
Catch of the week. I was traveling. So the only thing I saw I saw a little bit of the second half of the Giants demolishing the Panthers, a game that was 5-3 at the half. Right. The Giants did actually end up pulling away in the second half.
Who had the best catch in that game?
Yeah, Daniel Jones.
Daniel Dumpster Fire Jones out of Duke made the catch of the year and then had the bravado to big chest it off the field like he's won every game this season.
I was about to say, the Giants are still only 2-5.
Right, tied with the Eagles.
This was and Washington. Funny enough,
right.
It's only our second win of the year against a Panther team that has come back down to earth. The Panthers, they are who we thought they were coming into the season after starting 3-0. They've now lost 4 in a row. Sam Darnold got benched at the end of the game. I guess he's starting to see the ghosts again. Ghostbusters again comes out in a month. Can't wait for that. But
that might be the sequel of the decade, the way that's looking right now.
Yeah. But again, I've said this before, and a lot of folks are like, oh, look at how good good game that Daniel Jones had. He'll have an occasional good game. He'll have this flash in the pan. The Giants are still 2-5. They're 2-5. We are not a good football team. No. And Daniel Jones really isn't a good quarterback. Not consistently, anyway. Moneyman mentions in chat the Bears are already rooting Justin Fields. Yeah, there's another example of a team that needs an offensive line. That poor kid needs help. The Buccaneers demolished the Bears by 5 touchdowns, 38-3. A lot of blowouts actually this week. Usually the NFL, a lot of close games, a lot of blowouts. The Giants blew out the Panthers. The Titans blew out the Chiefs. The Chiefs might be done at 3-4. Mahomes is banged up. They said he'll start next week, but needed help getting off the field when he got hit late in the fourth. The Patriots beat the Jets by 41, 54-13. I haven't seen
never change.
I haven't seen a 50 spot in a long time, and the Patriots, though, hang one on the Jets. Surprise, surprise, that team's got a lot of problems. The Bengals beat the Ravens 41-17 to take over first place. The Bengals are in first place.
The Bagels are in first place.
Unbelievable. Like the Rams, and I've said this, and I know there's a couple of folks out there who aren't going to be happy, but I said it. The Rams, they are good, but they are not, to me, Super Bowl contenders because they had to come back. They were down for most of the game until the fourth quarter against the Detroit Lions, who were playing hard, but still failed to get off the schneid. They lose 28-19. The Rams got a late touchdown to make that look better than it was. The Rams played down to the level of their opponent, and if they continue to do that, I don't know if they're going to catch the Cardinals, who won 31-5. Holy cow.
They are not going to catch the Cardinals.
The 7-0 Arizona Cardinals, Zach Ertz, newest Cardinal, had the longest touchdown catch of his career.
Yes.
In Arizona in that game. His first game, I think it's his first game as a Cardinal.
Yes.
47-yard touchdown catch. Good for him. I'm sorry, got kind of rubbing a little salt in the wound there for you, Lee. I apologize.
He had his time here. Look, I think it's like most things. The guy's a world champion with the Philadelphia Eagles. Nothing's going to take that away. Guy is beloved player here. So one of the few players, I really mean this, one of the few players that can exit Philadelphia and have fans here actually feel good for him. I mean that. Him and his wife Julie have really made footprints in the city, not just with the Eagles, but they have helped. And Julie Ertz, by the way, who is on the USA women's gold medal soccer team. Yes. Really done a lot to help inner city youth and the underserved in the city. So that's a guy and a family that is always going to be welcomed here. He'll probably have some sort of ceremony here after his career ends. Yeah. And he won here. So yeah, no, it's not salt in the wound. I'm happy for him. And like I said, I hope he wins another, I almost said World Series. I hope he wins another Super Bowl. Yeah. With the Arizona Cardinals, a team that, by the way, got a lot of payback this last week, as you just said.
Yes.
Right. So, how can you not root for the Cardinals right now as an underdog team? That's amazing. And they're not an underdog. They're the first ever undefeated underdog.
Yeah, no, that's very true. They're 7-0, but they are right. A lot of teams they're like, when is the shoe going to fall?
You know what JJ Watt said, right?
I did not.
JJ Watt on the sideline, he goes, maybe when are they going to realize it's not a fluke? We're just that effing good.
Yeah.
He's right. You don't go 7-0.
No, not in the NFL. All right? No.
All right.
Yeah.
You go undefeated because you're a little bit lucky. You don't go 7-0.
Yeah,
right?
no, he was a missing piece to that defensive line.
He
Their
knew it.
offense is
He
clicking,
knew
and Kyler Murray, again, a quarterback now in his third year. We saw this with Josh Allen a couple of, last year. This is the make or break year, and he looks like he has made that jump to legitimate NFL quarterback. And everybody wants to talk about his height and his scrambling, blah, 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 blah. He's winning, and he's winning consistently, and he's playing well.
This is winning, period.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. So now the question is, we got a couple questions. Do the Cardinals keep this up, and are they now the favorite to probably meet the Bucks in the end? Is the NFC Championship game going to be Bucks Cardinals? That's my first question.
That's a great question, and I do not have an answer for you. I mean, that's today, yes. I mean, but I can't tell you that. I mean, yeah, I look, again in my head, absolutely, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're unbelievable teams, right? I'll tell you this, right? I would be more wary of the Bucks falling off than the Cardinals right now. All right, there's a lot of X factors on the Bucks that have to be working for that team to keep winning.
Right.
Like if Brady gets injured, if age decides to catch up with him, which it probably won't, but if it does,
yeah,
like there's a lot more X factors there than there are in Arizona.
Well, and the Bucks have already been banged up. I mean, they've been playing well, but like especially on the defensive side of the ball, we've talked about their secondary issues all year long. That's why they brought Richard Sherman in, right? So again, health. Any NFL team can quickly get derailed if the injury bug pops up.
As of today, yeah, sure,
yeah.
But you gotta let it play out. I mean, we're not even halfway through the season, right? Or we are just about halfway.
We're close. Next week would be the halfway mark. So
yeah, that's my point. Like we're not even quite there yet. But yeah, no. Think about this. Today as a game I'd want to see right now. I would love to watch that game this Sunday. I would.
Yeah. Going to the AFC, are the Bengals going to be able to maintain this? The Bengals are now 5-2. They beat it. They have the tiebreaker now with Baltimore. Obviously, Burrow to Chase. Everyone criticized the Bengals for taking Jamar Chase with their first pick, saying they needed offensive line help. Instead, Chase put up 200 yards this week receiving. Burrow had 400 yards throwing. Chase was his favorite target in college. They brought him over here. Is that going to be – that's two questions. Can the Bengals continue this? And is that going to be the new fad where – you're going to draft a quarterback one year. You're going to draft his favorite target the next, so that this way you can try and get the lightning in the bottle from college to the pro level.
I can tell you this right now, that if it works well for one team or two teams and they go really far, yes, that will become the new practice. Teams copy other teams, right? I guarantee you in all four major sports, whoever wins, unless they're cheating, whoever wins, the other teams are trying to copy that team. I'll give you a great example in hockey. The New York Islanders and the Tampa Bay Lightning have very similar stats. They are constantly in the Eastern Conference Final against each other. Teams are wising up now of, okay, we need to beat them. So they're making similar teams to beat them. I've seen it in the Philadelphia Flyers this year. They've completely changed the way they play and their identity to match that of the Tampa Bay Lightning and the New York Islanders. Look at any other sport. If you have LeBron James, you can win. Look at any other sport. Seriously, the super team thing, Ray, we were talking about that when the super teams thing started. We were like, oh, this is not good for the sport. And you're seeing it everywhere now. You're seeing it everywhere. There's not just one super team, there's five, right? And those are the five teams that make it every year. In football, it's no different. You're looking at the Bucks and what they're doing right, and you're going to make it work. And yes, anytime you see something that works, it's going to keep going. But what an exciting season. NFL doing it correctly. You want to watch each game. You want to watch more than just your team. Right? Like this is correct leadership. Not to go back to an earlier conversation about horrendous leadership. Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred. Yeah. Rewind back if you're just hearing us now.
Yes. And speaking of horrendous leadership, that's actually a great chance to now go into my next question for the NFL. Which actually we got a lot of horrendous leaders coming up now. But this first one, actually, the Raiders, we talked about this. Were they going to galvanize themselves around the John Gruden firing? They are now 2-0 since that happened. And they're now 5-2, and they're in first place of the division, tied with the Chargers, but they have the tiebreaker. Are the Raiders the team to beat in the West, as the Chiefs can't seem to stop anybody defensively, and Mahomes is absolutely getting beat up behind that offensive line?
I'll tell you after next week. If the Raiders win again next week or their next game, maybe, right? Right now, I think this is a honeymoon period. It's look, we don't need Gruden to win. We can prove ourselves. I mean, that can be a really strong identity for a team. The problem with identities like that, Ray, is they fizzle out very quickly, right? Very quickly, because they've proven it, right? They've proven they don't need them to win. So the more weeks go by, the less you have to look at that. So they need to reestablish themselves in this week coming up of, okay, we're past the Gruden crap. All right, who are we going to be? And if they keep winning, yes, sure, they can do it. But that's they're playing with fire, no pun intended. If that's what's motivating them, in my opinion.
Oh, there you go. So we move to, I still think, and again, I think now that the Chiefs are falling off, I think actually for me, the Chargers are probably going to be the team to beat still. Like I thought the Chargers are going to be a wild card team, but I did not expect, I think the Chiefs are in legit trouble because their defense, never mind when Mahomes is healthy, that offense will be fine, but that defense can't stop anybody. And that is going to be an issue going forward. Against a lot of teams.
I'll say this too about the Chiefs. If anybody can turn it back around, they might limp in.
That's also true.
They could limp into the playoffs and be very good. So we'll see.
Yes, we will see. Speaking of coaches getting fired and bad leadership, this was look, we've talked about this for weeks in the show, folks. It's actions have consequences. It's that simple. Washington State, there is a state mandate that, again, and it's a state university. Everybody's got to be vaccinated. Everybody on the staff has to be vaccinated in order to go to work. The Washington State football coach refused to get vaccinated. And so they said, okay, you're fired. You're relieved of your duties. And that's it. Bye-bye. So, and this is happening a lot, not just in sports. It's happening all over. Again, folks, beating the drum, actions have consequences. You have the choice to get vaccinated or not. By the way, Spain hit the magic number, 77% vaccinated. But you have the choice to get vaccinated or not. Right now, only 58% of Americans are fully vaccinated. It's your choice. But understand that there are actions for there are consequences for your actions. And if you don't want to get the shot, you don't want to get the jab, well, then you're going to get the pink slip in a lot of cases, depending on what your gig is. There's actually there were protests today, actually, I believe in New York City with the NYPD and firefighters who refused to get vaccinated, and them too. Like you're at the mercy. You're a government employee. You are a public official. These are the rules. Like, I don't know what else to say to you guys. I feel bad for a part of me feels bad for you, and a part of me is like, you're just being stubborn and stupid at this point.
Look, thoughts on whether or not someone should be vaxxed withstanding. I don't have a problem with someone who leaves their job because they don't want to get vaccinated. It doesn't make a big deal out of it. That's your choice, and you're willing to live with the consequences. That's fine. Yeah, that's freedom. To be totally honest with you, that's a darker side of it, but that's freedom. If you do make a big deal out of it, I'm kind of with you here, Ray. Like I said, I do not want to get into a vaccination talk right now. I don't understand anymore now that it's FDA approved and clearly works. I don't understand. This is like the world is flat type argument to me now. Yes. And, look, here's the deal. I've said this before. When they're about to approve it for children, that should get us pretty close to the 77%. And that's one of the big problems right now is that most of the country's not vaccinated because it's children. Right. So when that happens, not all of them will get vaccinated. It will change this, and hopefully we can get out of this fantasy nightmare science fiction novel that we're in. Yes. And we can get back or move forward to a nice science fiction thing where movie theaters have better deals. And sports is not crazy. But yeah, look, like I said, there's a lot of interests working to keep us apart right now. Yes. And we need to come together. So when people say, I hate people that aren't vaccinated, it's just like, have a conversation and just listen. And if you disagree, you can just move on with your life. But yeah, no, I agree with you on, look, if that's the rule and you didn't want to follow the rule and you want to take a stand, fine. That's totally your right to do that. But you can't complain about it.
Yeah, speaking, you mentioned the earth is flat. Peter mentions in chat that the protests also the Barclays Center because of Kyrie Irving. Actually, funny enough, and actually speaking of Lee, speaking of the fact that there's a lot of hate going around and people just like, that was actually been proven that protest was kind of started by a professional protester. Yeah. So like there's just a lot of people, who are, like you said, kind of profiting.
I'll give you the most basic version of this. And for those of you listening on the live stream, you can go tell your parents this, right? If anybody watches cable news, a 24-hour news network, I don't even need to say any of their names because this is true of all of them.
Yes.
It doesn't matter which one it is. You are watching a network that bases its ratings and bases its viewership on how many ad dollars they can sell for commercials. Do you really think they have your best interest in mind?
It's all fear mongering.
What's going to keep you at the television? That you're going to die and the world's going to end in 12 years and that those World War III and Civil War are about to start. And if you don't watch our channel, you're not going to find out what you need to know to survive. Is that going to get you to watch, or is everything's great and actually we're moving towards peace and things are working well and there's a lot of advancements and we're doing great things as a country and bad things at the same time? But it's not as bad as we say. Which one's going to make you watch? All right. It's the fear. Okay. Yeah. Don't trust that. You want a real world experience? Go outside, talk to your neighbor.
Yeah.
Ask them how they're doing. Like this doesn't have to be so hard. And again, I think living in fear is such look, there are places on earth where people legit have to live in fear. This is not one of them. This is not one of them by and large. I'm not saying there's not people who aren't living in fear. By and large, this is a great place to live. One of the best in the world. I mean, we're bitching about sports on this show. How awesome is that? How awesome is that? I always take a step back. Like, we complain. I'm keenly aware that my thoughts on Rob Manfred are a massive privilege when you look at geopolitical things that are going on.
Yeah.
All right.
Hmm.
I'm keenly aware that Casey Owasco, who just came in the chat, who said he forgot we were on, that's his right. But Casey, there's consequences to your actions. You missed my entire MLB rant, and now you're gonna have to listen to it on your car on the way to work.
Yep, you have to listen to it on the replay, Casey. So, but yeah, no, it's actually interesting. I mean, it's and we're going into a bit of a deeper topic here, but I do want to touch upon all this stuff, even with
on Geeks Who Like
Sports. It does happen. Yeah. We've been talking about the Chappelle thing the past couple of weeks.
I'm happy to talk about that because I applaud him right now with how he's handling this. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I actually have a friend, Vito Gesualdi, who I need to shout out, who was actually at the counter protest at Netflix a few weeks ago, and he was actually attacked by the people who want Chappelle's special off of Netflix attacked my friend Vito, who is a comedian, by the way. He's also, again, going back to your earlier point, that a lot of comedians are like, hey, we need to kind of like stop hating each other. And that was kind of Vito's message, was just like, look, you may not agree with what Chappelle had to say, and it is your right to be offended, but it is his right to say what he said. And as a comedian, that is his job. And Vito got attacked. Vito got assaulted. And then somebody on Twitter said, Vito, well, you deserve that. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? No. You don't even stand to listen to what his message is that his message at the end of the day is freedom of speech. Again, you are allowed to say, again, as whatever you want, as long as it's not your shit out screaming fire in a crowded theater. But also you have to understand, there are going to be consequences for your actions. If you say something that is offensive to some people, well, then you might offend some people. It's one of those, but the thing is you still have the right to say that. You know what I mean? Like, and the thing is I think we're also just all a little too overly offended now with about everything.
I've said this before. The problem with, and this has nothing to do with the LBGTQ. I think I said that right. This has nothing to do with them, right? This has something to do with professional outrage, because there's professional outragers on every single side of the spectrum here. The problem with professional outrage or being outraged all the time is that you have to be outraged all the time. So even if there is common ground, it's not good enough because you have to be outraged all the time. And people will say, well, I just want this. It's BS. You want to be outraged because you identify through your outrage. All right. And don't get me wrong. There are absolutely times that you should be outraged about certain things. I'm not saying don't be outraged. Okay. But you can't make it an addiction. I'm going to say this again. I don't know how anyone could have watched that entire special. That is the key. The entire thing. and walked away from that thinking that guy is a transphobic person. I can understand people walking away saying some of those jokes offended me, and I don't appreciate it.
For sure.
I don't understand how anybody could walk away from that if you watch the whole thing and say, "Oh wow, he's transphobic." And on top of it, he came out the last 24 hours and said that he's received nothing but love from that community, and that there are other interests involved in creating this conversation.
Yeah.
And it's like, I actually believe him.
Yeah. No, I know people as well in the LGBTQ community who were like, it wasn't the funniest special, but his jokes weren't great, but they don't get the outrage. They don't get the hate. They don't get this wave of, and again, it is, going back even to the Kyrie thing, it's these people who are almost professionals at protesting and being angry and driving the rage.
But it's like sports teams. Look, that's what politics and these discussions have done. They've turned into sports. Like, again, we joke, Ray, about Mets and Phillies or Yankees and Red Sox. Well, I hate them. You don't really hate them. You dislike them heavily. You don't want them to win. All right. But you don't want to kill them. Most of them, I'm joking aside here, right? You don't want them to die. Like, we're hearing things like that right now. Like, what are you guys talking about?
Well, and again, it goes back to my friend Vito being assaulted. And again, it was actually, when I say it's assault, he was shoved. He had his sign torn up. Vito was okay. Vito's a big guy. Vito could take care of himself. But the point is that somebody put their hands on Vito. And then another person on the internet said, well, you deserved it.
Yeah, it's horrible.
What?
That's horrible.
What?
Again, decency is going out the window. And it's not limited to left or right or up or down or straight or LGBTQ. We have to start being decent to each other again. This is out of hand. And the thing is, it's being puppeteered. That's the thing that kills me the most. There are people with interests that want you to stay apart. Right? Have empathy. Take care of each other. And I remember that society briefly before September 11th, 2002, I'll say, because things were pretty good for about a year after 2001, where by good, I mean, we were together. All right. Ray, I've said this before here, the safest I've ever felt. This is a cool story, right? The safest I've ever felt in my life. And I've lived in Philly. I've lived in Delaware. I've lived in many places. The safest I ever felt was in England. And it had nothing to do with that. I was in the UK. I was on a U.S. Air Force base in England, which is technically United States territory, right? There were guards at the gate, obviously lots of jets and high U.S. aircraft around. It was really awesome. But we were secluded in a foreign country, I think 800 of us or whatever. It might have been more, probably a lot more. Man, we kept our doors open. We took care of each other. It was a community. We were all there. Obviously everybody had a job. I mean, there's some other outliers here, right? We all all the families had a job because they were volunteer service people. Kept our doors open. We talked to each other. It was like a 1950s TV show, except fully integrated and multicultural, right? Safest I've ever felt in my life. So if we can do it in a foreign country on American soil, why the hell can't we figure this out here? It's because we're too at each other's throats. The other thing the military has, Ray, is a common mission, a common focus. We all understood what the mission was, which was to take care of each other and keep each other safe, right? And obviously to do that for people back home. We have no leadership in this country, none on either side. We have not had a good leader in this country in a leadership position, I should say, for a very long time. And it's devastating. And until that happens, this is what's going to happen. I don't think the last several presidents have done much to bring us together.
No.
All right. Whether you agree with them or not in a political ideology.
Yeah.
So anyway, Chappelle is making a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of people jumping to conclusions. And look, Chappelle knows how to play the game. You're jumping into his trap if you're coming to a conclusion.
He's also said a couple of things too that has, admittedly, I'm like, oh, you're just kicking the hornet's nest a little bit there, buddy. Yeah, but he knows what he's doing, of course, here. And Money Man mentions we're a little off topic here. As welcome to conspiracy theories and Illuminati talk with Lee and Ray.
Well, Money Man is still watching, so we appreciate that. The audience is going up right now. I'm watching the tick. Maybe we're doing something right.
It's all manipulation. I mean, but it is
brought to you by Dots Prep. No, I'm just kidding.
See, but it is
I got
true.
you to watch, and now I have our advertiser on. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, But it is true. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it is true, like you said, is that we are weaker when we are divided, and there are groups out there and people who would rather see us divided than to come together or find common ground.
Listen, my final thought on this, Ray, because I do want to get back on topic, is this: there are plenty of examples of countries over the last 50 years that have become too divided, and you can see what happens to them. And we're dangerously close to things like that. So come together. So
speaking of dystopian futures potentially, let's get into the geek section.
Dun, 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 dun. It's the geek time with Lee.
So Lee, you watched Dune this weekend, and you are a big Dune fan. And I love Dune. What were your and Casey, I will get to the. I have no. I don't.
Casey's talking about hockey. He's talking about hockey. The Chicago Blackhawks final report came out. They're a bunch of a-holes. Stan Bowman left the team. They're going to get what they deserve. Unlike other sports, hockey will punish their own heavily.
There we go. So fantastic. There's
another reason why I'm a hockey fan. Judge, jury.
Yes.
Dun dun.
There you go. Fantastic. So so Lee, what are your thoughts on now? I'm not a Dune guy. I never read the book. I never watched the original film. What are your thoughts on this remake? And just give us your thoughts, guys. Give us a spoiler-free review.
This is a spoiler-free Dune review. It's funny. We call it a remake, Ray, but Dune is always made every 20 years. It seems like every 20 years we make Dune again. So this is what I tell people. Look, let's start with the people who have seen a Dune film or have read Dune. Mm-hmm. This is what I said to Ray earlier today. It's so true. It's Dune again, which means it's awesome. It's modernized, but it's still Dune. It's always the same thing. It's always the same story. And I'll say this: it's just a modern take on it, and it's great. It's super fun to watch. In terms of like the CGI, the acting, the writing, just on par with every other Dune film that I've ever seen. I had no problem with it. And again, this goes back to there's the Dune from the 80s. There's the Sci-Fi Channel Dune and Children of Dune, which was phenomenal. This is definitely worth a watch. For those of you who have never seen Dune or don't know Dune, Dune is like Lord of the Rings in space. It's a very slow burn in the beginning because they really have to give you the context of the politics, the people, the planets, the geography, the biology. I mean, they really need to give you that. But what you get in the first kind of hour of that film is a really great foundation to understand the story. If there's any gripe I have with it without giving anything away, and it's funny because this was remedied today, Ray. The film's official title is Dune Part 1. And they called it that without it being greenlit for a Part 2, which I thought was pretty gutsy, to be honest with you. They're pretty much saying it's a flex, right? Like, we're going to make the second one. And the film ends about really the halfway point of the first book, which is, I said this to Ray earlier, it's like a TV episode ending. Like, the movie's great, but it ends in a way of like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll just wait till next week and see the next one. And you realize, like, wait, there's no next week, right? They haven't greenlit the next movie yet.
It's 2 years from now.
And it's funny because today they greenlit it. Today they greenlit Dune Part 2. Right. So it's going to happen in 2023. But like I said, I think it's a good thing that the way this film ends, and I'm not going to give away kind of what happens. If you read the book, you can probably figure out where it stops. But where it ends, like, I was like, I really want to watch more, right? But this is what I'll say. I watched it in kind of segments, mostly because I was like watching it in bed. I watched it over 3 nights, right? Which I think made it actually more comfortable and more episodic in nature. But I really enjoyed it. If you're a Dune fan, definitely check it out. If you're not a Dune fan, what I'd say is, look, the action starts about an hour in. If you're watching it and you like that kind of in-depth stuff, which again, Lord of the Rings does, like the whole thought, we said this, Ray, before, the Fellowship of the Ring is all just kind of like set up for the rest of the other 2 movies, right? The Fellowship of the Ring doesn't really do much in the story. It establishes everyone, right? So if you like that type of storytelling, definitely go check it out. If you're more of just a Marvel or shoot 'em up person and like just get into it and go, not the movie for you. All right. This is a cerebral type deal. And also, I said this to Ray earlier too. You have to understand the laws of science fiction to get this. Otherwise, you're gonna be like, what is that? I mean, because like, there's I'll call them powers. Like there's things like that in here that if you have no basis on that, you're gonna be like, what? Janet, my wife, was watching, but like, what? I'm like, we were 10 minutes in and she was asking me to explain what happened. I was like, I don't know where to start. 10 minutes in.
It's a sci-fi trope. You just got to go with it.
There's the planet Arrakis. There's the Atreides family. There's the Harkonnens. There's the Fremen, and they have to work together. And there's these sandworms.
Spice melange.
That make spice, and that's why their eyes are blue. And the spice is also a natural resource that makes billions and billions of space dollars. And why do they want to kill them? I don't know, because the Emperor sent them there, and that's what happened. It's just like, that's 10 minutes in. 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
Like, and she's like, I'm not going to watch. I was like, yeah, it's probably better that you don't. Like 30 years.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
well,
so
there
check
you
it
go.
out. Check it out.
Yeah. So I actually, I think I'm going to take your suggestion, which you said was wait for the second part to come out and then watch them both together.
Or watch the Sci-Fi Channel version of it from like 20 years ago. I mean, it's good.
Right.
If you want to know what happens, right? They don't divert much. No Dune remake has diverted from the books because the books are that damn good, to be honest with you. Right. It's just a modern remake. I don't know how else to say it. Right. It's fun and good. And it's exactly the same as Dune. It's Dune. It's Dune. Like I said in the beginning, Roundy said, it's Dune. You love Dune? Here's some more Dune for you. It's Dune.
Well, I'm going to go into another topic that you're more the expert in than I am. New trailer released today for Cowboy Bebop coming to Netflix.
Yes, I'm excited.
It's the live action Cowboy Bebop. What were your thoughts on the trailer? And because I am not a Cowboy Bebop guy, so
yeah. So here's I am a Cowboy Bebop guy. I read the manga. I love the I used to watch it on was it Adult Swim?
Adult Swim. Yeah.
So yeah, look, what we've gotten so far is all hype videos. So they remade the anime open with these characters, but today we actually got a trailer with a little more story and a little more subplot, and it looks great. It looks like, you know, like the gang kind of meets each other and gets together. A lot of humor in the trailer already with Spike Spiegel and everybody there, and I just can't wait for this film. Look, this is the shoot 'em up fun, fast pace. You don't need too much backstory deal, and like to see the Bebop, which is the ship, like in live action and modernized. I can't imagine people are not going to love this show. It is super fast paced, witty, fun, and above all, Ray, it looks so artistic in the way that it's edited. I can't imagine people won't like it. I can't wait for you to see it. I hope you actually try and take a splurge with an episode and see if you like it, because I just love that story.
I will try my best. I will try my best.
Yeah.
Someone else that looks like they're trying their best. I don't know if they're going to succeed. We also got a trailer this week for the Uncharted movie, finally, starring Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. And it looks like they're following the games, not, you know, pretty closely in terms of the story. Like there's obviously bits from game 1, game 2, and game 3, but they've really kind of taken the best parts of all that and kind of mashed it together. There's also a bit of an origin story here. Obviously, Sully, who is kind of like a mentor to Nathan Drake. They are meeting here. It looks like the beginning of the film. And they haven't struck a fast bond. They seem to have a really good rapport with each other, which is integral to the games. I am cautiously optimistic for this film. It is Sony, which we never know. But the source material is so good, right? From Amy Hennig, right? Like who did the first 3 games. If they, much like Bebop or Dune, if they stick closely to that material, I can't see how they can mess this up. To me, it's a pretty straightforward, fun action adventure, National Treasure, Indiana Jones kind of franchise. So I'm going to say again, Sony, don't be your usual sucky selves and don't muck this up. But I'm again cautiously optimistic that this is actually going to be pretty good. The trailer I thought looked solid.
The trailer was great. I just hope they didn't show all the best parts in the trailer.
That is one of the reasons.
Yes, right. Yeah, that's what I read. Like really funny line with that Scottish guy's threatening him, and he's like, "What?" And I'm like, I've seen this so many times in real life. That's hilarious.
Yes.
But look, a lot of the trailer was like, oh, let me introduce you to these characters, and then here's the 3 best moments from the video games that you know and love.
Yeah.
So I hope that's not the whole thing, but
Yeah.
I think you're right, Ray. If they just follow the script, like same thing with Resident Evil that's coming out, like just give the people what they want.
Yes.
I'll give Resident Evil credit that the Alice storyline actually did grow on me, but that's also in a genre that is so overdone that to do it well is actually to do zombie well is not that hard. Let's just be honest with it.
Right.
Actually, to do zombie not zombie-ish like I Am Legend or stuff, that's hard.
Right.
Right. Oh, they're not zombies. Well, what are they? They're not zombies, right? In The Walking Dead, they're not zombies. They're walkers. We can't call them zombies.
Nobody calls anybody zombies.
Yeah, right. So I'm looking forward to it. And there are no zombies in that film, just in case I'm confusing anybody. Well, at least not to my knowledge, I should say.
In Uncharted, no. In Resident Evil, yes.
I've always wanted to see the movie like Mummies versus Zombies because they're basically the same thing, and no one's done that, and it's upsetting to me.
That's true. That's true. Now that you mention it, like
they're
Wow, I never
we
really
got
thought of
Cowboys
that.
versus aliens, but we can't get zombies versus mummies.
Yeah, that was a mad movie.
Yeah, well, it's because it was in development hell for like 20 years. Like
it very much steered away from the material.
Yeah, zombies versus mummies would be a good film in my mind. But that's the thing about I'm not a big horror guy, but like that's what makes them fun for me is like you can be ridiculous. Like that's why like King Kong versus Godzilla was so fun, right?
Yeah,
because it's ridiculous. It doesn't look realistic. It's ridiculous on purpose. It's ridiculous. It looks like a ride at Universal, you moron. It's supposed to.
Yeah. No, exactly. Oh goodness.
T-Skins asked, wasn't there zombie mummies at the end of the first? That's my point. Like, mummies are kind of zombies. There's never been like that clear separation. So what I'd want to see is an army of mummies. And if we're going to talk about this, it's ancient Egyptian dead people with potentially magic powers versus modern zombies, which is a virus that's infected everybody here. That if you dive into that, it could get pretty cool. What happens when a zombie bites a mummy? I don't know. People go, that's crazy. You can't do that. Hey, man, have you seen any of these Alien prequels? Because I did.
You can do a lot with it.
You can do a lot with this type of stuff, right? Come on. I'm on to something, Ray. I'm on to something here. I'm telling you.
Speaking of doing stuff with older things, Grand Theft Auto.
What kind of a transition was that?
Well, I mean, because you mentioned you did the Alien prequels, but these kind of really aren't prquels; they're remakes. We're sticking with the video game theme though from Uncharted.
Sure.
The GTA Trilogy got a November 11th release date. Super excited for that. We also got our first trailer where they've remade it, but they're more cartoony. They went more of a cartoony route instead of the realistic route, which I understand. I get it. It was a way to get these games out faster for the public, to give them something to hold them over, hopefully, until GTA 6. I'm okay with it. Also, supposedly, I believe Vice City, if you just want Vice City, that will be free on Game Pass. So yeah, I'm actually saying Casey says he has no interest. I am the exact opposite, Casey. Because honestly, until GTA 5, I always gonna only play those games at friends' houses. I am super excited to be able to sit down on my own console and play them at my own pace and go through them really in one go for the first time, instead of calling up friends and be like, can I come over to play the next missions in my save file on your PlayStation 2, please? So I'm actually looking forward to seeing these games again, even if they are not as crisp as I was hoping with the remake.
I'm looking for a little bit of nostalgia in Vice City and taking over fake Miami in the 1980s again, just to do it, because I haven't played that game since probably 2003, and I used to play it on my PC. So if it's free on Game Pass, I'll probably dive in just to mess around for a little bit and see if it sparks anything. I mean, I think a big part of Vice City for me was actually the music. But I've always enjoyed GTA, and I haven't played the other ones enough, to be honest with you. But there's something about Vice City. I mean, anybody who knows me knows I'm a little bit of an 80s nut. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing that again.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm looking forward to it. And now moving on from video games and kind of going back into movies. And this is unfortunate. This is a very serious subject. Really tragic.
It is. Totally.
We need to. Everyone is so caught up in pointing the finger and trying to figure out who's to blame for this. Remember, at the core of this, unfortunately, a woman lost her life in this accident, and I hope I'm saying her name correctly, but Halnya Hutchins, the director of photography on the Alec Baldwin movie Rust, was shot and killed on set. It was an accident. It for those of us who are old enough, you remember the Brandon Lee tragedy with the Crow 30 almost 35 years ago now at this point. And it's very similar, where for whatever reason there was a real bullet in a prop gun, and when it went off, the director was struck and he was injured, and the director of photography was shot and killed. And some folks are I'm not going to get into the blame game. I'm just going to say, from knowing on sets, this is somebody didn't do their job. It's that simple. There's supposed to be checks. There's supposed to be checks and rechecks and checks again when it comes to dealing with any kind of firearm on set before it gets to the actor's hands. There have been talks that safety concerns have been brought up days before, and they were ignored. There were talks about the prop master did not feel comfortable in the position. And then people were trying to talk about whether non-union, they should have gotten union people. Doesn't matter if they were union or non-union, honestly. There's plenty of people who are non-union who are very qualified to be on movie sets from, you name the positions, right? The sad fact of the matter is that Alec Baldwin, who will probably be traumatized for the rest of his days, took a woman's life via accident. Again, a gun that should never have been loaded with a real bullet, but for some reason it was. Some saying it wasn't a full bullet, that it was residue from a previous chamber. Well, and actually, details are still coming.
It was Casey, our listener, said, look, it didn't have to be a bullet. If something was in the chamber, it fired. It doesn't have to be anything like a bullet. So if anything's in there, it's firing when there's an explosion. So
right. Well, and that's the thing. Again, the chamber, it should have been checked. The guns should have been checked by the prop master and the weapons master. And there's always one on set. And again, it's these they are in charge of checking every bullet in every chamber of every gun. And yeah, it's just a real tragedy that this happened, and it needs to be talked about because it brings up, again, the issue of gun safety. It brings up the issue of, are we at a point now on movie sets where we don't need real guns to fire blanks? That's been brought up a lot of times here. A lot of people talk about that the flat muzzle flash is still, people want the realism and whatnot, and that's why they use blanks. You still get that muzzle flash, but obviously they're blanks. They're relatively harmless, especially if you're firing into an armored target. But yeah, there's really no question here. It's just really sad, and it's really tragic what happened.
Yeah, it is. Look, it's extremely unlikely there's any foul play here. It's just a tragic accident, like you said, Ray. And, if it makes people more aware of things around the country, that's great. Like you said, I don't have an issue with this being reported. It takes over the news feed, and it's like, man, people get killed like this every day. I'm not taking that away from this woman or her family. She had a young child and a husband. But it's like, I'm always amazed at, and again, Ray, this has nothing to do with what you just said. Everything you said is 100% right. I'm just always amazed at how something like this will captivate the nation.
Yeah.
But it happens daily in the inner cities. Yeah. So, that's always intriguing to me. Or like this murder mystery I forgot her name. The two people that, their bodies were found. It's just like, again,
the woman whose body was found, and they went looking for the boyfriend. The body was also found in the swamps, as supposedly he was on the run. Yeah,
I worked at AD television, so like these types of murder mysteries are not like captivating a nation. It's not unheard of. Like I'm really not judging anybody if it's coming across that way, right? Like our country's always been kind of intrigued by murder and things like this, but I'm amazed at how we just kind of take it and move on, and 2 weeks go by, and it's like, oh, okay, that happened. So, yeah, I feel horrible for Alec Baldwin in that, but I feel more horrible for that woman's family and their child. Truth is, Alec Baldwin's still here. So while
Yeah.
traumatized, he's going to live his life. So,
Yeah.
yeah, tragedy in Hollywood. I'm not pointing the finger. It's just a horrible accident. Hopefully they learn from it.
Yeah. I mean, there probably will be charges brought up against somebody, probably some kind of, I would imagine possibly the prop master might get some sort of negligent
Somebody should be held
manslaughter kind of
accountable.
thing.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I should have said that. Someone should be held accountable. Like, 'cause
Yeah.
something went wrong. I don't
Right.
know what level of accountability that's be. I mean, you're looking at third-degree murder, probably at the most severe level of
Yeah.
this, but I don't know what that's going to be in a court of law. But yeah, I mean, someone's never working in Hollywood again. I can tell you that.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
That is for sure. So trying to now pivot from that into more lighthearted Hollywood stuff.
Good
This
luck
was
doing that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think, and I am.
Let me look at the next time. I'll save it. Not that you can't, but this is where I'm here for. I'm going to the. I'm going to the.
You know who never uses guns? Ninja Turtles and Karate Masters.
You know a safer way of causing violence, Ray? Karate.
Nunchucks.
Nunchucks.
Let me tell you about the safety of nunchucks. This was actually fun for those of you who are action figure fans. They're doing a crossover, doing 2-packs with the Ninja Turtles and Cobra Kai. Brilliant. So Kreese, Miguel, Johnny, and Daniel. We paired up with Michelangelo, Leonardo, Donatello, and Raphael.
So people are rolling their eyes when I say mummies versus zombies, but this is okay.
But this is all right. This is out there. This is yeah. So yeah, trying to move on to happier and brighter things.
No, that's fine. It's a cool little mashup here. Look, one of the things about the 1980s properties is that I think they figured out that if they approach today slightly self-aware of their 1980s mishaps, which was the ridiculousness of the 80s, they can do well. And this is a ridiculous mashup and therefore works.
Yes. I mean, we are the kings of the mashup. So this was something we had to add this into the rundown. So I saw this and I thought it was cool, especially as again, they're hyping up Cobra Kai season 4.
Can't wait.
We're 2 months away. We're just a little over 2 months away, 2.5 months. So yes, this should be good. We're also a couple months away from full-blown Star Wars season. Yeah, there we go. At least smiling now. So this broke. We knew he was going to be an Obi-Wan, but it's now been broken that Hayden Christensen now will also be in the Ashoka TV
I'm going to take
show.
it a step further and say this dude's going to be in the Mandalorian as well.
Maybe.
Listen. Let's break this down. Okay. So number one, awesome that Hayden Christensen's getting a second chance to reprise this role. He could not do anything about the incredibly horrendous writing in episodes 2 or 3. But let's take it off Hayden Christensen for a minute and remember who we're talking about. Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
All right. Now, how does this fit in? Right. So think about this, and I'm gonna culminate this because this is where the Star Wars in me just explodes out like a lightsaber beam. All right, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So my belief is I don't think it's going to be just flashbacks. I think there's going to be a ghost of Anakin. All right, and I believe that ghost is going to communicate with different characters at different times. Okay, now in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, we know we're 10 years out of A New Hope. Okay, we know that Vader is in full-fledged Vader mode. Perhaps the ghost of Anakin Skywalker is out there, or if not, then in the Obi-Wan show, I could see it being somewhat flashbacks.
Okay? I could see that being primarily flashbacks.
Right. Now let's move forward. You go to Ahsoka. This is way past the death of Vader. He's clearly going to be a Force ghost. They've already approached that. The relationship between Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka is amazing. This is something people are going to backstory like crazy when the show comes out. For those, again, you don't know, Ahsoka was Anakin's apprentice. They were very close. I mean, as close as you can get without being in love with each other. Brother-sister relationship. Last meeting they had, Ahsoka drew out Anakin from Vader. I mean, it's an amazing story, right? Now, why do I think he's going to be in The Mandalorian season 3? Because my gut tells me Luke is going to be in that show.
Yep.
And we are going to get a ghost Anakin talking to Luke Skywalker deal. All right. And I can't, that's going to probably bring tears to my eyes. I'm not going to lie to you now. All right. I'm just telling you, the asteroid belt sized guts, because I don't like to use the other word, that Filoni and Favreau have, tell me that they are going to do this. All right. Not to mention they're really bringing the expanded universe back anyway. All right. We did not get great Force ghosts in the episode 7, 8, and 9. Got a little bit. Yoda was okay. Right. But I was vastly disappointed with the lack of Force ghosts. Yeah. It's nice to see Luke as a Force ghost redeeming himself. I don't know. People talk about retconning 7, 8, 9. Forget 7, 8, 9. Forget it. Stop worrying about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're moved on. We're already moved on.
Focus on the now. Anakin Skywalker is about to have a major role in these films. And I'll be honest with you, Ray, that's exactly what Star Wars fans want. It's exactly what we want. The big topper for me, if they do what I'm about to say, and this is a long shot, but if they do this, I'm gonna say it now, because if this happens, I'm saying it way earlier, right? The final cherry on top for me, this is gonna surprise people. It's not just Anakin. All right, it's if they bring back Qui-Gon Jinn in some form. Yeah. That he's still around. That will completely, the circle is complete. Right?
I mean, to me, he's got to show up in Obi-Wan.
He has to. And again, that I can totally believe that they'd be hiding that. Yeah. Right. I would love to see him argue with Anakin. Right. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen here. And like, I just think the biggest missed opportunities of most of the films and things that we've seen is the lack of Force ghosts. Like, I just never understood why they weren't in it more. And again, that scene at the end of Rise of Skywalker, which was cool with all the voices, but like, why didn't we see everybody? A lot of it didn't make any sense to me. Like, it's just, typical Hollywood BS. I think that Hayden Christensen / Anakin Skywalker is going to really up Star Wars to another level. And I'm so thankful that we're living in a time period where we have Favreau and Filoni in charge of this. Yeah. All right. Every risk they've taken has been so spot on. Right. So I can't wait to see where we go with this.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think it's going to be fantastic. I think it's a good move. Yeah, I think I'm looking.
Star Wars season is
Star Wars season is
Lee
upon
is happy
us.
About it.
Yes, I am all for it. And actually, one little fun extra thing, what the internet is doing? This is when the internet does good. You know that Mark Hamill has never met Natalie Portman?
No, that makes sense now. I mean,
so they are desperately trying to get them together because Mark, obviously, he's met everybody else from the prequels and obviously he was in the sequels. So, but except for Natalie Portman. And so the internet is trying to get a mother-son reunion of sorts.
I'll tell you what, after Love and Thunder comes out, she's going to be right back in the sci-fi scene. I wouldn't be surprised if she reprises her role in some way. Look, one of the, again, not to keep going here, some of the best Darth Vader stuff is really him thinking about her and her death. I mean, like again, they can't do these in the movies because it's just too dark. But like there are hallucinations that Vader has about her being alive still. I mean, just deep, dark, awesome stuff that I don't think Filoni and Favreau are afraid to go to. Yeah. So we'll see. Again, look, I've said this before, that Darth Vader is an interesting character in cinema history. He was the most feared character of all time at one point, always ranked number one in the biggest villains of all time. Then the prequels happened. It just kind of humanized him too much and dropped him down. He wasn't as scary. And they kind of softened him up a bit. And then Rogue One came out and rightfully restored him to his proper badass, murderous, evil self, which is what Vader is. You don't fight Vader, you run. Yes. Right. That's exactly what that was. And I think now they have a way of getting Anakin and making him more tragic. Vader is empowered by the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker, not the whininess of Anakin Skywalker, which is what we got in those prequels. I killed and slaughtered my animals, and I killed my mom, and I don't want to go. It's like, shut up, Anakin. Right? Shut up. So I'm interested to see how this goes. I don't like sand. I'm excited about this, Ray, if you can't tell. I really think this is going to be a huge for Vader and for this shows. Bring it on.
No, I agree. It's gonna be fantastic. Can't wait. the clock is ticking. Only a couple months away. Star Wars season. It's back.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker, but you're not a Jedi yet.
It was good. Yes, it was very good. Got a couple other folks popping here in the chat. Welcome, Andrew. It was half vacation, half work, but Spain was fantastic. I mentioned it at the top of the show. I am back here in the States. Here as we move into our final topic.
How jet lagged are you right now? Like, are you on LA time in your mind?
I'm back on LA time.
So it feels like 8 p.m. there right now.
It's 7:30 here as we're recording this my time. And yesterday I was really jet lagged. Like again, I was gonna try and stream yesterday, and like about 6 o'clock my time, which is about an hour before I stream, I was just like, I'm gonna pass out.
Yeah. And it's always a weird feeling where it's like 9 a.m. and you're like, oh, lunchtime.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute. No, it's not. Your brain's like, what are you doing? Your limbic brain. You're just like, I just want to stay up and play video games.
Yeah. So no, that's exactly. Yeah, exactly. It was like, but for about it. So for one day I was really thrown off, but I'm better now. And I think by tomorrow I will be right in there. Andrew also talking about video games, Far Cry 6, which of course we do here on stream. I've done several times. I haven't beaten it yet, but my quick review is if you like Far Cry, it's more Far Cry. I beat, on a real quick extra geek topic, I beat the new Metroid Dread on the plane trip.
You said it was okay.
I thought it was okay. I think a lot of folks, I'm not gonna lie, because I've fallen into this trap before too. I think a lot of folks who say it's a game of the year contender, I think it is a fandom. Metroid is a fandom that has been so starved for so long that you could have given them the most bare bones Metroid experience. And they thought it would have been the best thing ever. There were good elements to it. This was also not done completely by Nintendo. This was done by Mercury Steam. They did the Metroid 2 remake about 4 or 5 years ago. They added a couple of things there, which were neat. But they only added a little bit, and instead of sticking to the classic Metroid formula, they doubled down on the stuff they added to the remake a few years ago. And by doubling down, specifically, there's a thing called the melee counter. They really hurt the pacing of this game. This is one of the slowest Metroids I've ever played. They have a real issue with, and Casey, Super Metroid, of course, is up there. The other Metroids, I think, this is probably middle of the pack. Like, the original Metroid does not stand the test of time.
By the way, most games with Super before or 64 after it are typically pretty good.
Are probably they're typically the best in the series.
Right.
By the way, Ocarina of Time now available on Switches everywhere if you get the expansion pass. I've had tons of friends texting me pictures of Ocarina of Time on their 80-inch televisions. I'm so happy for them. But yes, so yeah, I felt that this also feels like you could tell this game started out as a DS game, right? Remember, this is a project that was shelved 15 years ago. And it feels like this was a project that was literally dug up from the grave and necrotically brought back to life by Mercury Steam in some of the worst ways possible. There's a lot more items in this game in terms of needing stuff to open up new parts of the map. Very long load screens, which is not good for the Switch. I mean, I played a couple of games where the Switch did not handle them well enough in terms of power. Disco Elysium, I also played recently on the plane, and talk about a game that that was originally for the PC and now just chugs on the Switch. But going back to Metroid Dread, I thought the Emmy gimmick got old quickly, where that's the stalker robot that follows her through certain parts of the map. The boss battles were terrific. Minor spoiler, Kraid comes back. They don't explain how really, but it comes back. Overall, I give it a 7 out of 10. I thought it was okay. I don't even think it's the best. I don't even think it's the best Metroidvania of the year, honestly. I don't even think it's top 10 for me. Like, I think it's gonna probably be just on the outside looking in of my top 10 list this year, in terms of games overall. But it's not bad. And if you love Metroid and you're dying for some Metroid, then sure. But I'm also going to say this, by the way, if you equate value to length, it's also a very short game. I beat it in under 9 hours. That's not a lot. As Andrew gets a dab there in chat. So there's that. And right now, Andrew, my game of the year is Psychonauts 2. That's my game of the year at the moment, with a lot of time to a lot of games still left to play. But I don't see anything knocking that off. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think Halo Infinite's gonna be very good. Far Cry was more Far Cry. I don't think Far Cry is gonna make top 10. So yeah, I'm trying to think what else is coming out. Actually, you know what I've heard is actually really, really good? The new Guardians of the Galaxy video game. That's gonna be New Game Friday here this week. So anyway,
I've heard good things about that.
Yeah. So Andrew here in chat put me off on an always welcome video game tangent. I'm always happy to chat scores and reviews and stuff. It is my specialty. It is my forte. It is what I'm here for, folks. People have purposes on their planet. Mine is to play a game and to slap a number on it to tell you whether you should buy it or not. And I'm going to tell you right now, unless you really, really love Metroid, probably wait till Metroid Dread goes on sale. It's my thoughts.
Metroid.
Yeah. So speaking, though, of great video game franchises, that leads us into our mashup.
Mashup of the week. It's the mashup of the week. It's time for the mashup of the week. Yeah.
Yes, this is a good one. This, of course, stems from one of our first stories, which, of course, Ken Griffey Jr. buying a piece of the Mariners. So Lee came up with the idea that what video game character should buy a part of their franchise. And this was actually got into a bit of a mini debate in the pre-show.
Well, it was quick. We were just kind of riffing, but yes. I would say the bad. I am undecided yet because again, you can tell them what we talked about. We'll let the audience get involved.
Yes. We immediately disagreed on Mario. I feel Mario would be a perfect example because he has an infinite supply of gold coins that he could use to buy into his own franchise.
An infinite supply of coins that Bowser always seems to get his hands on. He's a horrible plumber. Ray, you never even seen the guy do a plumbing job. He just jumps in the pipes. Can't even keep, his girlfriend, who, by the way, is an independent woman, keeps getting taken by this dinosaur, literally and figuratively. Guy can't manage crap. I wouldn't trust him managing his own universe. You know who could manage that universe? Peach or Toad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Peach would. She's a princess. She's used to running things, right? So she would probably be fine there. But
Peach in charge of that universe before any of the Mario brethren.
Well, I mean, that's why they're not in charge. They're the muscle, right? That's basically what they're there for.
That's what I'm saying. They're not my pick. Any more than I'd pick Raiden to run Mortal Kombat. The guy just sucks at his job.
Yeah. Well, okay. So what about Link? Link buying.
Link's a good one. Link could work, right?
Yeah, Link could work because
no.
Yeah. Again, infinite number of rupees.
I think that Link has earned some land in Hyrule more than just the house they gave him in Breath of the Wild.
Yes. Depending. That's the thing. Depending on what game, though, you've got his uncle's house in A Link to the Past. Right. So
Link deserves a little more than what he's getting. No,
he's got his hut in the Kokiri Forest in Ocarina of Time.
He gets the short end of the stick every time, right? And he keeps saving Zelda, and she's just like, "Oh, thank you, Link." Yay. Yeah. It's just like, all right, fine.
She should use some of that wisdom of her Triforce piece, and she should conjure up some good good piece of land.
Excuse me, princess.
Yes. And as Gibby mentions in chat, Princess Peach wants to be kidnapped by Bowser. At least that's a common theory now. Yeah.
I mean, I would you give Sonic some of the Emerald Zone, the Green Hill Zone?
I don't think so. I don't think
Sonic's kind of crazy.
Yeah, Knuckles more in that universe. Yeah. In that
Shadow,
universe.
Or Shadow. I don't want to do that. Do you want to do it?
Gran Torino starring Shadow.
Right, Shadow. Yep, I can see that one. I'm trying to think of some other big ones here, right? But some people. Link is obviously deserving.
Yes,
Link's proven himself more often than not.
You mentioned Metroid in our pre-show chat. The reason why I don't think Samus is canonically in the main storyline, Samus blows up every planet she goes to, basically.
Right, but whose fault is that?
Samus.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't think she'd be a very good. Plus, she's a bounty hunter supposedly, and I've never seen her get paid once.
That's fair.
Not once.
Not once. She just takes her helmet off and like, hey, it's me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what other massive universes there are. I mean, I would not let Crash Bandicoot take over Crash Bandicoot.
No.
Because he's.
What about Donkey Kong? I mean, Donkey Kong already owns it's basically his island already,
Donkey
right?
Kong's misunderstood, man. He's heavily misunderstood. He's like a Harambe to me. It's not ours to give him because he owns it.
Right.
Right.
Oh, right. He already owns it.
Little Mac in Punch Out.
I mean, if he goes all the way and beats Mike Tyson, he'll have the money to.
It's Mike Tyson's.
Yeah,
it's his Punch Out. He should never have his name taken off. It depends on the decade. Yeah. Andrew says Master Chief for Halo.
I mean, on a soldier's salary, probably not.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like he's not making a lot. I mean, he's probably, and plus Master Chief, honestly, he's just happy in his cryopod a lot of times, or the barracks or whatever it is, wherever he is, depending. I don't see him buying a piece of that universe. And really, what you want, he's got so much traumatic memories. Why he wouldn't want a piece of the Halo ring? He wants to just get rid of them. So Caitlin mentions Pokemon in chat. I mean, you're 12 years old usually in the game, so I don't think you're gonna be investing in a lot of property. Well, you just go back to your mom's house.
Which Pokemon?
Like
if a Pokemon could claim to the Pokemon universe, I mean, I guess Mewtwo would probably be the obvious choice for that. But like, if I had to pick a Pokemon, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. You know, I'm gonna give it to Whale Lord. I'm gonna give it to Whale Lord. Nobody gives Whale Lord any credit. Whale Lord is gigantic. Right? I don't know how many oceans there are in the Pokemon planet, but that's a big ass.
There's a lot. There's a lot. Considering every game is an island.
Yeah,
basically.
Right. I'm saying Whale Lord. It's like it's kind of like Aquaman, just underappreciated the amount of power they have. Aquaman rules 86% of the planet, and we just happen to ignore that. Even though Superman, I guess, can hold his breath for days underwater, it's not the same.
He doesn't have to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true too. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he chooses life and Caitlin and a better tomorrow. And the guy we had to talk about, that guy quit. Some guy quit over that. I'm like, oh, come on, man, that was actually pretty good.
It's just again, people professional outrage. Caitlin brings up Animal Crossing. That is literally all you're doing is buying video game property. Yeah. And paying off the mortgage.
Animal Crossing, whose grandfather was at Farmville. Remember that?
Yeah. Well, no, Animal Crossing was first, actually.
What? No way.
Yeah, Animal Crossing. I'm gonna look this up.
Facebook game, like
the original Animal Crossing. Hold on.
No way. I trust you, Ray, but wow.
Hold on, I'm gonna look it up.
Anyway,
I'm gonna look it up.
Those of you listening, if you have any more universes, I mean, how about what could Street Fighter would be a good one. I'd love to let this would never work, but I'd love Blanca to just run Street Fighter World, just for the fun of it, zapping everything out of sight.
So the original Animal Crossing released in 2001, several years before Facebook.
Wow! And then, I mean, what was it?
It was a GameCube game.
Oh, I didn't know that because I didn't play it. I still haven't. Because here's the thing: is I'm an adult, and the last thing I want to do when I play video games is worry about a freaking mortgage. I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't understand Farmville, but what do? You build a farm, you harvest crops. I'm like, and that's fun to you. Yes, I love it. Do you have any interest in agriculture? No, I make digital farms.
Okay.
And I'm like, I guess this is kind of like SimCity, with farming.
So here we go. We're gonna have more or less traditional franchises. So Age of Empires. That's all it's about, is getting land and expanding your empire.
The Romans should always.
The Romans, right? Oh. The Hittites. Assassin's Creed.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think Ezio could definitely get some of that Venetian gold.
He wouldn't want to do it. Ezio would. He likes being in the shadows. I mean, I think Desmond's more likely.
But I think that too. I think I don't think he wants to be tied down. I think he's so used to running and going from place to place, right? Before he got fried.
You didn't say his name right, by the way.
Ezio.
Yeah, it's a little more. You know,
Ezio.
there's no way. Yeah, in the games
Ezio
I go,
Auditore.
Ezio. Yeah.
De Firenze. Ezio Auditore de Firenze.
That's it.
Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is basically in that same vein as Animal Crossing, Money Man, and all those other ones.
Money Man. What's with the name Money Man? I'd love to hear that for those of you listening to the replay. Got Money Man 02778 here.
Yeah.
That's an interesting handle. Yeah, no, there's a lot of them, right? Like again, especially those lesser. I think Ezio's an interesting call, but I don't think you have any interest in leading.
I think at the end, I think our best one's Link.
Link makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You know, especially if Navi's around as a leader. I think we should buy this. Hey, listen.
Yeah.
Sorry, Navi.
The mortgage rate is less over here.
Yeah, right.
With this lender.
Hey, listen. You can save 25%.
Switch your car insurance to Geico.
I'm trying to think if there's any other franchises. I feel like we're forgetting a big one, but I mean, like Lara Croft.
I mean, she already has her own. She already has.
I mean, that's Earth, though, right? Like, so that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not like a universe. Same thing with some of those others. What about God of War? Could Kratos, run his own? Could he run?
No, he's got no interest in that. He's not the guy for that.
We'll find out if Thor and Loki will in the next game. Dun dun dun.
Dun. Anyway, so and Money Man says the explanation for his name is that he's poor and just threw in a bunch of numbers.
That's a great answer, Money Man.
There you go. Like many of us on the internet, we're just poor with a bunch of random numbers after our name.
Yeah. What is the internet? An internet is a world wide web where people come on to bitch about movies and share pornography. That's from a movie called Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Ray was holding his breath there, but don't worry, we didn't do anything wrong.
Yes. Goodness. Well, on that note, we of course want to know
music. Another Jay and Silent Bob. No, go ahead.
Yeah, we want to know what you guys think, obviously, with this one, of course. And we hope you had a good day and enjoyed the show. This was a good one. We covered myriad topics. There we go. Look at that. Yeah, we didn't even talk hockey or basketball. The Knicks beat 76ers
we'll talk
tonight.
Hockey. Yeah, we'll talk hockey soon, and a lot brewing there.
Yes,
but, we had a pretty rich topics tonight, and I'm glad we spent it bitching about baseball and talking about football.
Yes, yeah, we'll have plenty of time for hockey and basketball as those seasons are really just getting underway. But so until next time, thank you all so much for listening or watching here with us live on Twitch or watching the replay on Facebook or YouTube. We appreciate it as always. So until next time, thank you all again. For Lee, I am Ray. This has been episode 129 of Geeks Who Like Sports. We're back next week, folks, with episode 130, another round number. There we go. Yes, look at that. So we'll see you all next week. Thanks again for watching. Bye.